Welcome back to my channel. I took a little time away to restructure and recalibrate how I would be approaching this new year, as many of us, I think, have been doing going forward, just to find ways to integrate both, how I can help to challenge you and help you along your own personal journey. So with 2020 being that harbinger for change and the onset of that new normal for many, I thought I would start here with you in terms of self-awareness. So basically, we're going to go over how to be a change maker in your own life and to really bring about richer moments and experiences for you in this new year 2021, and really help you to craft out or mine out a clearer direction for yourself. I think 2020 really it gave many of us a reset, and simply meaning we had to redefine how we were going to express ourselves in the world and find our voice. So because job opportunities weren't there in the same framework, brick and mortar buildings, that kind of thing that we all knew, even though I think many of us knew that we were moving into more of a technologically advanced society, it might have expedited things more in this direction. So either way, I'm going to take you along a series of videos that will help to grow you as a person and just to get in touch more so with your own personal foundation. So as this channel is all about building your dreams and your reality and bringing things into awareness, I'm going to take you through a step in that direction with this video. So imagine this to be a year where you're going to be revolutionary and intentional with your voice and really move things to the next level. So it all starts with, powerful things that you need to do for yourself, um, and also powerful things that you need to be able to see for yourself. So first you make the choices and then the choices make you, as they say. So in essence, you're aligning yourself with the right resources to hit each milestone to create a new strategy here. And in creating new points, new milestones as you level up, you're actually creating more meaning and a new vantage point, where you can actually see yourself doing more on the front line every day, and it helps you to keep you motivated when you actually see that there's some progress. So let's get started. Many of you may be tangled up in, how to adjust to that new world, that new idea, and not feeling as though maybe your skills, meet the new face of the market, or maybe you feel there's just not enough information for you to go forward in your particular genre, or maybe you feel like you suffered some losses over the past year. It's just hard to know what direction to create that has a direction of value for you when the old way didn't actually hold up. So with all that information and the options available out there, it's really difficult to weed through and navigate the terrain, and be certain that where you're going to plant your feet to ground and grow is going to be the right direction for you. So this video should help to rebuild your vision and deal with frustration or confusion that may be challenging your next step. So to help you basically connect the dots and create more abundance on a daily basis, so that you need to have more of these little victories to rise toward each day, each week, each month, to generate this momentum for yourself. So in a lot of ways, you're going to break apart some of the old mold. This is your challenge, so take it. Let's start by opening up some of those doors, create the schedule, commit, let's facilitate and establish some changes to make a real difference this year. So, and able to see opportunities in your challenges, you need to recognize the things that build up your confidence each day. So you're going to start by being the manager of your day. I want you to actually see the difference between what you might have said from your old framework regarding, goal setting and daily tasks and how you put forward an action and what were your behaviors, and then compare that to what the manager in your head is now, that is going to project and monitor and control the days ahead for this month. So starting just with the month. So what kind of skills, as this manager that you're going to be taking on, as a secondary part of yourself, to supersede the old framework of yourself, what are you going to be looking for from this new hire or from this professional that you want to come into your business, or to help expand your business in some way? So in other words, what kinds of skills, as again the manager, are you looking for from yourself to be able to fast track you toward directing your focus on your goals. So think about, on a resume or on a professional letter, on the letterhead. You could even write this out for yourself, just something that whatever makes it clear for you in your mind. But you need to be able to set up some kind of systemized form of action as well, some regular check-in points to assess what priorities moved you ahead in the week, and then maintain that for the month and see, how much was attained day to day, week to week, and then you're going to accumulate that data by the month's end. So keeping a little bit of a journal here so that you can, assess, on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, by the end of that journal, each day, writing out morning pages as to what you or how you feel you achieved or successfully moved yourself ahead toward your goal. So on a scale of 1 to 10, was it a 5? Was it a 4? Whatever. But you need to have some kind of system that you're going to be implementing. And of course, it'll, as you go along, be much more formalized or much more specific. But for right now, we're just starting with the basic data. So you want to really know your system that you're creating. So again, drafting morning pages to make sure that you stay on task on what activities move you toward the goals and what you've set up for yourself over the long term or for that week and then for that month. So practice, not perfection, is what we're aiming for here. So if you find that you're a little unenthused, uninspired day to day, just add something different to that day, something in the, different to the practical aspects or tasks that you've created for yourself, because you're actually going to create a novel experience by, something that you're going to learn and grow from. So doing something different each day that challenges you out of your comfort zone is key this month. So learn calligraphy, challenge yourself typing, do mini runs to wake up and get out of a state of fatigue. Doesn't have to be anything long, 40 miles or anything like that. Just, just 5 or 10 minutes just to add some energy back into your body to get yourself focused, because by generating that little bit of energy, what you're doing is, and this can also happen in terms of, music or whatever it is that allows you to, just 3 minutes of music to spark your activity into action. But you need to free your mind for just a few minutes. It's a mind shift so that you can then focus on whatever it is the task is that you're going to do for an hour. And then I want you to time it for that period. So this is about letting your mind and your body be free for just a few minutes so that you can engage more deeply on a task. I know Anthony Robbins, I think, jumps into, a cold shower, and that just helps him to reset and then get right into whatever it is that he's doing, and sets the tone for the day. So you need to also create systems like that on a repetitive basis to be able to implement a strategy for yourself. So first consider after you've created this little system for yourself and have these checkpoints, consider what relationship you have to your goal or your vision for yourself, and then we'll go from there. So I just want you to stay in the now and get a practical layout or a design ready to carry out the science in this video that I'll go through here shortly, what I'm going to be discussing. And it's going to be about self-awareness. Now, don't turn off the channel, because I know self-awareness sounds like a very minute kind of thing, but it actually, with the science behind it here, with the study that I'm going to reference, you're going to see that it actually does have some very relevant impact on activities that we do in our day. So, but before I get into that any further, what I want to also just bring to your attention is, again, where you are now, where you want to be, uncover what brings passion about this goal, how in touch with that goal are you, and what are you expecting from it. So what I mean by that is, what brought you to this goal? Why did it speak to you? Was it bad bosses, bad jobs, poor wages, uninspired work, need more stimulation, need to express yourself, wanting to leave a legacy, wanting more control over your life, whatever that is for you? You need to be aware of that, because that's going to be sort of a head chapter title. It's going to be every time you kind of get yourself into a headspace where you're demotivated, you're going to have some kind of page that helps you to, stay inspired. So you also want to know how to utilize your strengths. What are your strengths? What do you want to avoid in this goal? And what does change feel like and look like for you? So how are you, how willing are you to jump in and do the real work, on a scale of 1 to 10? So knowing what your motivations are and where your starting point is you can also, midway through the week or midway through the month, just do a little bit of a reference check to see if you're feeling more inspired. If not, then you're going to have to tweak your system and create more, generate more that would inspire you to keep moving forward. So I also want you to, and you can also do that as a separate page, creating a checklist on how you intend to level up for the end of the month. What do you need, and exactly what is the amount that you need to be able to move to the next step. So you want to break it down into dollars and cents. You want to start, brainstorming and digging on how you're going to manage your client, to make this happen. So brainstorming is really important. It's also a creative part of the process that keeps us engaged. So into the topic of self-awareness, certainly, self-awareness has a few different definitions here. When I say self-awareness, the definition in itself, as I say, can be about bringing things into consciousness. And, it's about being basically aware of, where you're headed. You don't want to be in that mentality that you're doing something, it's not a big deal. You don't want to be doing something where you're disengaged. That's what I'm trying to say here. So anyway, I'm just going to jump right into the topic of the video again with self-awareness. I just wanted you to consider some of those questions that I mentioned prior before breaking out into some of the poignant skills and tools that you need to be able to implement so that you can make these leaps and bounds and be that change maker and forge a stronger foundation. But a stronger foundation requires you to ask good questions. So when you ask yourself good questions, you'll produce good answers. So this is a key skill, which leads me to the study that was done about the importance of why versus what and the Regency Effect by Tasha Eurich. So she's also written a book, and I'm sorry I don't have the title handy here, but according to a study that was done in the book here, there was some data that was regarding introspection and self-analysis and that self-assessment. So in analyzing the relationship between stress and happiness and job satisfaction, there was a study that indicated that people who introspected would be happier and more well off. But in fact, the data actually disproved that. It showed the opposite. They were actually more stressed and more depressed and less satisfied with their jobs and their relationships and less in control of their lives when they did too much self-analysis, and there was actually more of a negative consequence over a longer period of time. So in the short term, they were able to get themselves to move beyond a particular issue that they were challenged by, but over the long term, they would continue to go back to that negative spot. And because you're asking yourself why, it keeps you in the past, whereas when you ask the question what, it keeps you in the present. So the negative consequences over a long period of time, I think it was actually 1 month later, people were happier when they actually asked the question why and they did their self-assessment. But 1 year later, they were more fixated on what happened and they were found to be more depressed. So self-analysis can actually trap you. So you're again, you might assume that the insight that you're gaining in the short term from asking the questions why is going to allow, is going to allow you to address something and gain some knowledge. But the surprising reality is that thinking about ourselves isn't related to knowing ourselves. So the most common introspective question is why, and you can search for why do I feel like I'm in a bad mood? Why did I have that argument? Why was there a questioning, why was I questioning my beliefs? Why was I questioning religion or penalties or consequences in my life? But you're trying to comprehend your own reactions in conflict, or in other words, in reaction to being put on the spot. So when you ask why, it doesn't move you toward your truth. It moves you away from the reality of the situation. So there's a multitude of reasons that exist, as to why, but in fact, we can't really know all someone else's motives or our own motives, because in that moment, we're referencing it in a particular way. We're seeing it in a particular way that is skewed by or biased by our own emotional context of the situation and our own thoughts. So much is actually hidden from our conscious awareness that many things feel true, but in fact, we invent things to fit an understanding that we are developing in the moment. So it's really a false reality. Despite having it feel true, it's still very wrong. So there was actually a study that was done as well in conjunction with this one, in this book, that speaks to nylons on a table. There were 4 different nylons. They were all exactly the same. And 2 psychologists actually set this up and asked people to pick their favorites. And this is a consumer research study as well that indicated that people on average, just even regardless of whether or not they were seeing the same thing, they have more of a preference to lean toward things that were on the right. So, and this actually happened. So people, chose on a rate of 4 to 1. Even though all the nylons were identical, they chose what was on the right. So the people were very confident with their choices, and they felt that they were justified, that there was something different or unique about it, despite, being told that they were all the same. Even though, as I say, it was about the positioning here, they denied the truth to that research and wanted to support their choice. So we like to think of our brains as rational and logical, and that the input that that we're taking, to arrive at a conclusion through self-assessment is accurate, but in actual fact, it is not. So what I'm saying here is, if you were to, there was also another, in conjunction with this, referenced in the book, there was also another idea that was brought up around relationship status. So in a relationship, if you were to ask people to make a list of why it is, or how they saw their relationship, was it a positive or was it a negative? How did they feel about it overall? If that individual had an argument, let's say, about something really trivial, or what, might be a larger issue for some, but something that was, about, the reference they made in the book was about the dishes not being put away properly, or put into the dishwasher properly. That small argument about cleaning up actually caused people to disengage from the relationship, to the degree that when asked whether or not they had a solid foundation or a solid relationship, those people that had that little issue or some kind of argument in that moment were actually looking at their relationship unfavorably. So, it puts the situation or the assessment of the relationship as a whole at an unfair disadvantage. And when the partner starts to explain his or her side of the situation, it also creates alternative facts, which causes our self-perceptions to taint, and it clouds what the reality of the situation was. So in other words, if asking why makes us depressed, wrong, and overconfident, it does not increase your self-awareness. But it needs to be gauged differently. You don't approach introspection by self-analysis. Don't ask why, but what. Asking the important questions are key. So asking what's important to me was more important than why. So when people were dying of cancer, for example, on another issue, example related in the book, it focused more on the reasons that the relationships meant something to them, or the relationships that meant something to them, were took precedence over any previous concerns or conflict that might have been going on in a situation before, because the context mattered to them. So it was what was most important versus why. So once you see the reasons, and you have more to do, and that has more to do with looking for a common denominator, in how you review job satisfaction, or how you want to look at a situation. If in those situations something makes you feel terrible, you want to look at what is the common denominator in your thinking, in your actions, because that will help you to break free from that and move in a direction that is more that's better suited for you. So when you're having difficulty by asking why, think about the things that are going right, um, and the things that have helped you, and ask what. Don't ask why. So you want to start to change why to what. Why questions trap you in the rearview mirror, and questions, you want to be asking questions like what that move you toward the future. So we're blessed to have that ability to understand who we are, and we want to contribute to the kind of life that we want to lead. But the only thing that we have in common with who we thought we were and how we were understanding a situation is the belief of the importance of self-awareness and that commitment to developing it. So the search for self-awareness continues throughout your life, and it's up to you to choose to learn and grow from your tragedies or your successes. But again, the important thing is to ask what instead of why. And you should check out Tasha Eurich's book. And I'm so sorry, I did not think to put that in here. But she also has some information on some TED Talks as well that you can reference. But first make your choices, then your choices will make you. And remember, the one thing that you think won't matter, that distracts you from your goals today, is cumulative. It has an effect, and it will matter by limiting your choices going forward. So make every day count.